Welcome to the HBR IdeaCast from Harvard Business Review. I'm Sarah Green. I'm here today with Justin Meintjes, an expert at the executive search firm Spencer Stuart, and author of the new book, Better Under Pressure: How Great Leaders Bring Out the Best in Themselves and Others. Justin, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Let's cut right to the chase. What separates leaders who are better under pressure from those who crack under pressure?
So much of it is about preparation. So if you were fortunate enough to be one of the tiny number of executives who had an upbringing that allowed them to thrive with adrenaline in their systems, then you're naturally good at it. But 90% of executives have to be trained. The premise of this book, why I wrote it, is because the world is now a place of constant pressure. So it used to be that we would have crises and you had to learn how to sort of hold your breath, white knuckle it through it. With today's business environment, that's not the case. Pressure is constant, complexity is constant. So we actually have to learn how to thrive within that context.
But it does seem like most of the media attention around pressure or stress or complexity is that it's bad for you, bad for your health, bad for your business. So how can you really thrive in those conditions if it is bad for you?
I think pressure that you're unprepared for is bad for you. So there's a lot of research that shows actually a moderate amount of pressure is critically important for human satisfaction and gratification. Otherwise we actually get very restless as beings. We like challenge. We have to have challenge. It's just if you overload and flood us, panic is what many people are talking about when they say unhealthy pressure. So the key is, and what this book is about, is helping people prepare for handling pressure without panic.
Let's talk a little bit then about preparation, since it seems like that's really the key. How do you help executives prepare for pressure?
There's three attributes they have to master: realistic optimism, subservience to purpose, and finding order in chaos. They have to get good at those three things. And I detail how masters of the CEO position have learned how to do that, and then how they teach their people how to get good at those three things.
That middle one, subservience to purpose, I'm not sure I quite intuitively grasp what that is. Can you give us an example of what that looks like in action?
Absolutely. So the point of this is, how do you maximize the discretionary effort of your people? That's the difference of great leaders versus not great leaders. Is great leaders maximize the discretionary effort of their people. How do you do so in the 21st century? And subservience to purpose is critical to being able to maximize that discretionary effort. It means defining your work, their role, in a way that allows people to understand its larger purpose, that it's more than just making money, that they're actually there waking up every day to make a meaningful, positive difference in the world. If you can teach that to your people and infuse it, like Herb Kelleher did at Southwest Airlines, the baggage handlers don't just see those suitcases as somebody's suitcase or just another bag. They see it as somebody's insulin or a grandmother's present for her grandson's first birthday. It's not just about getting that bag or another bag on. It's about helping the human beings get from one place to another in an affordable way. They see their work in a larger context.
So it sounds like that's an example of how a leader might inculcate a subservience to purpose in his team or her team. What about inculcating that in themselves? Because when you're the CEO, you don't really have anyone doing that for you. You kind of have to do it for yourself.
So it's so true. The psychology of that, all of this is about helping people deal with today's work environment, which is you are going to fall down, you're going to have more problems than before. There are no periods of calm seas anymore, that you will get ongoing challenges. So having some sense about what you're doing, having a purpose to it, is how you can get up every day and face what's going on with a vigor that it matters. So defining what you're doing. One of the people who was taught this, we were talking about Herb Kelleher, when he grew up, he had such a sense, he redefined everything as a mission. He started out as an attorney, and the partners in his law firm were so scared to give him cases because he saw his clients' sides of things as missions. He was so involved in the rightness of their positions that he didn't want to build them, because they shouldn't be going to court anyway. See, everything he infused, when you infuse that purpose to what you're doing, that's where passion comes from.
I want to talk a little bit more about the teaching aspect of this, because it sounds like some of the kinds of things that we're talking about, having a purpose, being a realistic optimist, seeing order in chaos, it seems like those do come more naturally to some people, but obviously you wouldn't have written the book if you thought the rest of us were sort of hopeless. So what would you say is the biggest stumbling block, that most people run into when they're trying to teach themselves or teach other people? Because it can't be easy.
Yeah, it starts with a fundamental acknowledgement. So when you open the book and within the first 5 pages you will hear the fundamental premise of my work, which is that nobody's a fixed entity, that there is no lazy person or hardworking person, that any of us are capable of manifesting laziness or hard, effortful work given a particular context. The book has some self-tests that you can sort of look at your realistic optimism, see where you stand and how well you do with that and how you might want to change. And then it has sort of little exercises you can do that will improve it. And one of which is, when you're think about what you hate about your job the most, because and how often do you do that? Because if you want to distinguish your performance, what you hate about your job, often with aspiring leaders, it's giving frank feedback to their people. That's what I hear more than anything. If you really want to differentiate yourself as a leader, do something and focus on it that other people tend to avoid, because it's actually a very important activity, these things that they might find uncomfortable.
You have so many case studies in the book and people you talked to as part of this project. What was your sort of favorite story coming out of doing all this research?
I was so struck by how positive they are. They're so positive. I was raised and trained by professors who gave a heck of a lot of, that were tough. I thought that was the model, tough. But, it'd be, point out what's wrong. I don't want to praise you, like, here's how you screwed up. It doesn't matter if you did something really special. Here's what you need to do better. And it's not true. These people are incredibly positive. They tend, that's really surprised me. I love you, big guy. Don't make me fire you, because you're going to make me fire you. I mean, I love you. I know your family. I care about you. And what you're doing right now, you're going to make me fire you, so don't do that. So they really do care about their people, and they have a very positive, optimistic regard about human beings and their potential. They don't believe that people are just one way or another. They believe that people can be great and that any big problem can be solved. They believe that. So it sort of teaches other people to believe it and feel it.
Well, and one of the surprises I thought in the book was that you say it's not actually lonely at the top. That's sort of a misconception that we have of the CEO role.
That's so true. It's actually an incredibly gratifying job. They're deeply involved with their people, and their teams tend to be very tight-knit and close. The other big surprise, I think, that people assume CEOs are closed off, that they're not sensitive human beings. They are incredibly sensitive. They are incredibly sensitive. It's part of what makes them successful, because sensitivity is just a broad radar, acute radar to what's going on around you. They pick up a lot of information. It's just that they don't have a sort of agitated response to the information they're getting. They can manage their emotions sort of in a way that it doesn't sort of make them unravel.
Well, Justin, that's very good advice. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.